Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. The Birds are in the bye week. They are off. We're not off. We are producing content, and we are, Adam, going to talk about this Eagles 2-2 start. What's happened that has led to it? What might change going forward? And we'll do this in kind of a two-part podcast series that we talked about. This series, this pod, you and I are going to go through the off season. It was an off season of great expectation, and it was an off season of a lot of additions, draft, free agency, trades, and we're going to go through all of the transactions here and kind of get an idea of what went right, what is still yet to be determined, what might not have been what they thought, and just to remind people of how the Eagles got from there to here coming off that slide last season. This will be a really interesting breakdown of how the roster came to be, and then by next pod, we'll really talk about what we think can change, what can get better, what's more of a concern for the long term.
Yeah, we're going to go. This is what we're doing. We're going inside the roster construction, how this was put together, why it was put together, contracts. We do it like no one else does. We go through everything and why they did it and how it fits going forward, how it's not fitting in, right? What happens? Can they get out of the contract? We're going to give you all the details. We're going to explain where they're at. And there was a couple moves that I totally forgot about. One in particular that probably had a little bit more of an impact in a negative way because the guy wound up not playing.
I know it. Yep.
One begat another decision. So, and then there are a couple that, wow, who the hell knew when you broke that story on Mekhi Becton's going to get cross-training guard? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Really?
That was cross-trained to starting real fast, man.
It's insane. Yeah. By the way, that's turned out to be a heck of a move. Now, only 4 games.
Right.
Relax a little bit, but it was a good move. So yeah, not everything's worked out. We all know that, but we'll explain what exactly has happened and what could happen in the future here. On offense and defense, we'll go through all of them. And then we will look at the draft as well if we have time.
Yeah, I like how you frame this as about not just talking about it, but going inside the what and the why. There are a couple of signings that really jump out to me. Like there's a reason that this signing took place other than just, or this acquisition, than just they wanted a player at that position or, like it was a player that they liked, right? So we'll talk about that. And I definitely know who you're referring to about a player who didn't wind up playing and might have had a bigger impact, because I didn't even think about it until I started going through the roster, right? These acquisitions. And I'm like, oh man, imagine if that had worked out differently, right? So I know where you're going with that. Let's start with the offense as we look at the roster additions. Obviously, the big, we'll go with free agency. And here's a really good example to start with on the why, right? The Eagles don't historically spend in free agency on the top running back available. They deviated from their approach this offseason. And after 4 games, Adam, we can say, good thing they did, because Saquon Barkley has wound up being their best player. I will be the first person to admit that I always worry, and listen, we got a lot of games left to play. He better stay healthy because I don't think they're as deep at that position.
That's the issue.
Yeah. But I'll be the first person to admit I don't like when organizations sort of deviate or zag a little bit when they have a winning formula. But to your point on why, when you look at Saquon Barkley's contract, right? They signed him to a 3-year, $37.75 million deal. And it's really a 2-year structure that you can get into in a second. But when you look at it and you realize, whoa, they gave a running back money. When you go look at other positions and what they're making, like $12 million a year or 13, whatever it is, a year that it averages out to, is actually not, like, there are guards getting 10 to 11 now and more than that if they're really good. So the running back market continues to be depressed, I guess, compared to other positions that are growing and growing.
This is above market. Yeah, this is an above market.
So even though this is above market deal, I can understand now in retrospect, man, you're only paying 13 a year for a running back over 2 years, and you're getting a great athlete and a guy who maybe in a better environment is going to be good. It's not like I can understand how they saw that as a better bargain, as trying to get a real elite skill position player somewhere else for that kind of money.
So I'm going to say 48 hours before they signed or agreed to a deal, whatever you want to call it. Well, they went up signing for us, but before they agreed to the deal and then got the contract signed, we started to hear like They're all in Barkley. I'm like, they can't. This no way. With his injury history, are they really going to do this? And then 24 hours before, like, yeah, it's between them and Houston. And then the money became really rich, and Howie stepped up. I mean, he's like, I'm getting this. When Howie wants something, talking to agents and other clubs, it's like not going to be denied. And I got to give him credit for this one. He looks. I mean, again, it's only 4 games. It was never about talent, though. You could question, was he really this good? Like, he looks elite right now. Saquon is, as Cosell said, how many times has Greg said it? He's never looked. Greg's like, wow, he's never looked this good.
He's certainly
Awesome.
running with strength in a way that we have not seen before, dragging defenders, doing things like that
Put in the
after
hall,
contact.
incredibly
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So basically, and they had to give him a great structure. The Eagles can't do anything until after the second year. When I say that, the first 2 years are fully guaranteed at 24.5 million. There's nothing to do. Year 3, there's only 1.5 million. So basically, if they want to get rid of him after year 2, they show him 1.5.
Right.
There's an offset on it, so it's again, it's a 2-year deal. Is really what
Yeah.
it is, but it's a massive 2-year deal. So in fact, well, yeah, you probably don't want to redo a deal with a running back at 2 years after it. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, would they look if he's really, really, really kicking ass if he continues to do this,
Hmm.
shocks us and stays healthy. Again, with him, it's just about staying healthy. He's had ACL, high ankle. He's had a lot of lower body injuries.
Hmm.
You worry about that, but so far so good. It looks to be, has the potential to be, you knock on wood for the Eagles' sake, one of the best signings of Howie's regime and of many in free agency. He's been the king of free agency.
Yep.
But again, it's never been about talent. It's been about health. And that's the asterisk here. We got to get through the rest of the season. We'll see what happens. So far, so damn good.
Yeah. One contract I was looking at, just trying to give people a comparison, was, and I just randomly picked it off the top of my head. I was picking on the guard position. Jonah Jackson, right? He signs a deal with the Rams. He was a Lions guard, good guard when healthy, but he's had health issues. He hasn't been kind of like the Saquon of guards. He's a good player, but he's also struggled to stay healthy. And he signed a very similar contract in free agency. It's 3-year deal, structured as 2, I think 25 million guaranteed ish. So when you look at it, the Eagles got an elite skill position player for the same that a guard went for in free agency. So that just shows you again how the running back position, you can't get an elite wide receiver for guard money. You can't get an elite quarterback, obviously, for guard money, but you could get this year an elite running back for not elite money.
It
So
was
yeah,
actually way more. Jonah Jackson's deal 17 million a year, just so you know, 34
but
million.
that's AAV. What I'm saying is he got
Yeah.
25 million guaranteed, correct?
The total guarantee was 34 million.
I thought it was
The-
less than that.
yeah, it's the 2-year
A
cash
total
is,
guarantee. Okay, yeah.
yeah, the 2-year cash is 34 million.
Okay, so then
Um,
does that illustrate my point even better? A guard got way when the guards are getting that much money and you got an elite playmaker for say 10 million less guaranteed, that's taking advantage of a depressed market.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the
That's
Eagles.
what that was that illustrates the point perfectly. Like you
Okay.
can't get an elite wide receiver on a discount these days. That's not happening because wide receivers are where the money's at. But you were able to get an elite running back playmaker.
Joe Banner agrees with you. I talked to Joe a while back after the signing, and I was like, "Wow, they're really with his injury history." He goes, "Yes, it's true." What I said to him, he goes, "But this deal will look like a bargain if he stays healthy." I was like,
Hmm.
"Wow." He was really emphatic. Like, he and I just didn't agree on it,
Hmm.
but I got his point. You, look, maybe it's luck with Saquon. It's injuries sometimes could be luck. He's had some bad luck with injuries, but he's so much better than he's ever been. He's always been good or very good,
Hmm.
but he is elite right now. And they're still not using him quite like we thought in the passing game. We want more explosive plays. It's only 4 games, but he has been super special, and it's been a pretty damn good story so far.
Absolutely. All right. So another off-season addition that was at first for us kind of puzzling. We thought it was for good depth. We knew that this was not going to be a slot addition to the wide receiver
Yeah.
group. Was Devontae Parker signed a 1-year deal? It was a very weird kind of thing, right? Because the Patriots hadn't officially yet released him, but then he was going to get. It was a
Well, they
wacky.
gave him permission. What happened was
Right.
they were going to cut him. He had some guaranteed money left, so he's just basically signing for free. And they allowed his agent to negotiate a deal, so he gets a deal. And then a couple months later, before he reports to OTAs, he retires. Usually, you don't retire before OTAs; it's usually before training camp. That was bizarre, man, because he was going to be their backup X receiver to AJ Brown.
Yep.
That really hurt them. A, for depth, as you mentioned. B, to be AJ's backup, because they don't. Johnny Wilson kind of quasi is, because he's big, and that's really his position as the X.
Right. He's the only one that can play that position. Correct.
Just doesn't move very well. It's just like it kind of hurt them. I mean, now again, Devontae Parker, 31 years old. If he had not retired, he had real issues with getting separation. But this would have been like probably his last year anyway. He had a ton of lower body injuries. But look, they were kind of counting on him to be that backup X, and he retired. So that necessitated a move later on. It would be John Dotson.
Yeah. So to your point, it was one of those unforeseen things when we were in April and May or June, right? We
Yeah.
thought, hey, this guy, we did say that they would still have to make a move at slot receiver eventually because they didn't have that anything settled there. But we felt that at least this guy could be your backup X, and then him not being able to left them even thinner at that position. So when we get to training camp, and then we get to the end of camp, and it's not looking better, and the Eagles acquire Jahan Dotson from the Commanders for a 5th-round pick. I'm sorry, they get Dotson and a 5th-round pick for a 3rd-round pick and 2 sevenths. So, look, it doesn't look great right now. We'll see. This is one of those. There's still 14 games left, and maybe things can look better. I don't know that they will. I personally don't subscribe to the theory that because you have 2 3rd-round picks, you can just give one away and not really care about it. I know some people said that who cares?
Really awful way to think about it.
That's a
Teams
terrible
don't
way
think
to.
that way. Yeah.
Right, right. Because then it hamstrings you. Like, then you're like, well, A, you could have a 3rd-round pick. B, it makes you less willing to want to deal maybe a 2nd-round pick coming up or a first if you want to get an elite player. If you need, it's just, you want to have all your good picks and at least get fair value in return.
Tell a scout that's on the road that nobody cares about that extra 3rd-round pick. They'll yell at you and probably hang up on you and never talk to you again.
Yeah,
That's
probably.
Trust me. Anyone who thinks like, oh, they had 2/3, so they gave one up, and that's no big deal, doesn't understand football. Like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
it's just not a way that people think in the National Football League. They treat these things like. Like in the 2nd rounders of the NBA, they're like $1. Like, I think nobody cares about them. They're just throw-ins. Not in the National Football League.
That's right. All right. So obviously a lot of work to be done with Jahan Dotson. We'll see if things can improve. And then obviously when you finish off the other big moves on offense, we'll get into some of the minor ones too. The Mekhi Becton signing right after the draft. That's what happened right after the draft that they signed him. And as we reported, that wasn't just to play tackle and guard. It was seen as a good, solid depth piece because they had gotten younger and more inexperienced on the offensive line as far as backups, especially. And here we are. I'd say he's done a pretty good job at guard. He hurt his finger. I know he wasn't very good. He wasn't great in the Tampa Bay game. I do wonder, the more he plays, is that going to catch up to him at all? Or with the more tape, are they going to see things that he's not doing at guard that like 5 or 6 or 7 year guards would do? But you do have a little bit of faith in Stelton here that he's also going to be working him and coaching him up.
Yeah, so he signed a 1-year deal for $2.75 million. It's all guaranteed, and then he's got the playing time incentives for $2.75 million. It's, as I understand it, structured like maybe it's like 70% is $500,000, and there's increments of it depending on how much percentage playing time he gets, and it's up to $5.5 million. So he honestly, if he never misses a game, which is hard to believe that would happen, but if he doesn't miss a game, he's going to probably make all of it. So it's the fact that he took the guard immediately. I remember we heard early on. What the hell did we find out? That he wasn't awkward with it. He kind of took to it a little bit.
Yeah.
And that I was like, okay, is this really going to happen? And it did. I mean, I what Stout sees, this as one former person with Eagles told me when I was on a training camp tour, he goes, this is a Stout specialty. This guy said, yes, it's Howie's decision. He goes, trust me, this is Stout. This is like, I could do this. We could turn this guy into a guard. What the hell? So far, so good.
So far. Now,
exactly.
I was thinking about this while we were really discussing, doing this show and really going inside. I wonder, I don't know. Maybe we'll do some homework on this. It feels like this is the type of guy Howie would try to get to a 2-year deal, because if it works out, right? He does this with quarterback. If it works out, you want to be able to have him back at a good price and not have to battle it out in free agency. Because if Mekhi Becton starts 17 games and plays at a pretty good level, he's going to be a free agent. I,
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised.
I hear you. Here's
I
why
wonder if he'll
though.
get an extension if he continues to play well and hold down the right guard spot.
Okay, couple things. I get that sentiment because we know they have a history of doing that with lower level free agents or mid level free agents that play a little bit better than they expected.
Yeah, especially
But
younger ones, right? Yeah.
sure, he's a young guy. Yeah, sure. And plus, he's got positional versatility. He's only 25, turns 26 in April. But Tyler Steen's tape was phenomenal against New Orleans. I think it was New Orleans when he went in there, spur of the moment. And remember, they drafted him to be that right guard. We know that Becton beat him out, and Steen got hurt, obviously. Training
Hmm.
camp, that's why Becton started. But Steen's tape was really good. It was intriguing. That to me would go against them extending Becton's contract unless A stays healthy. He's never been able to stay healthy. But if he does and plays well, so you got both there. So
Hmm.
both are kind of connected anyway, because if you're not healthy with he wears that big brace because
Hmm.
of what he's been through. It's been through it. I mean, he's missed more time than he's played. We have to understand that. So this is a really cool bargain basement signing.
Hmm.
That of all the negativity we've had to talk about, because it's look, we have to put out what's true and what's not true on our shows. So this is one of the moves where you go, wow, totally underrated, didn't expect anything. And so far, it's not a home run, but he's done a nice job. Has
Hmm.
he been elite? No. Great? No. Better than average? Yes. And
Right.
you want to keep working with it.
I remember when Howie signed Chris Long, right? He signed the pass rusher. He signed him even at 32. He signed him into a 2-year deal, and that was worth its weight in gold because Chris had such a good year, right? They go and win the Super Bowl. That he comes back next year as a really good situational pass rusher for them at a good price. So that's why, again, just with the age and with the pedigree of him being a former first, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I thought because at worst, if you give him a 2-year deal and you do get great play at a Steen and Lane Johnson, you have a really good backup, and you're not averse to paying high backup money for a guy who's probably going to get in there and play.
Here's why he probably wouldn't have. And maybe, you know what? Now that you asked, I'm going to look into that, see if they
Yeah.
offer him 2 years. But because if he plays well at his age, why would you want to be locked into 2 years?
Oh, 100%, a hundred
Yeah, I
percent.
just
It
wouldn't
might have
do that.
been him who did not want. I
But
agree.
yeah, but Howie, yes, agents will tell you, oh man, I think Braden Mann actually originally turned down an extension last year.
Uh-huh.
And then he signed his smartly. He balled out. He bet on himself, and he had a good year, and he got paid by the Eagles. So that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, free agency is a good thing for players. It's
You don't
great
get as
for
long
them.
as you play well, as long as you do well, you can get paid. Yes.
That's right. All right, so let's go into some of the other moves they made offensively. Obviously, one of their trades was getting Kenny Pickett from the Steelers and a 4th round pick in exchange for a 3rd round pick. How many 3rd round picks did they have? They traded a 3rd round pick and a pair of 2025 7th round picks. I'm telling you, somebody should be in charge of the just dizzying process of trying to figure out all of the Eagles' normal picks and then all of the Eagles' picks when they actually pick
Oh,
and how different they are. Do they ever just pick their own pick? It's probably very infrequently.
I remember someone put on X, not Twitter, X.
Yes.
So one, I don't know, it was a series of 2 years of how many picks they traded. It was like dizzying as you were talking about. It was ridiculous. It might have been like 20 picks or something at the
Yeah.
most. I don't know what the hell it was, but anyway,
It's like that
yeah. So
fantasy football trade where guys like, I give you like 30 guys for your 2
oh,
keepers.
I used to call them the Von Hayes trade. I don't know if you're old enough to remember
I
five for
remember the Von
one.
Hayes trade. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 5 for 1. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
I
Five for
think the
one.
Cole Hamels one was even more though. Didn't they wind up getting like 7 guys for Cole
You
Hamels?
would know better. You're
Yeah,
Mr.
like 3
Baseball. I don't know.
pitchers, 2 prospect hitting. It was crazy.
Wait, when they traded Hamels to where?
Texas.
Oh God. Oh, in that trade.
They
Yeah,
got
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of
Oh yeah.
guys in
Okay.
there in return for that.
Did they get Phillips in that Tyler Phillips in that trade?
I don't think it was Tyler Phillip. I remember they get
Okay.
like Jake Diekman. I remember they
Yeah.
got who's the pitcher? I can't think of his the right-hand pitcher. Man, his name is escaping me now.
The guy, Kyle Gibson.
Well, no, it wasn't Gibby.
Okay.
This was before Gibson.
Okay, because
It'll come to me at some point, but
okay.
um,
Why when you're sleeping? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, right. So yeah, anyway, Kenny Pickett is here. He's the backup quarterback. Right now, no impact other than he's the guy to go in if Jalen Hurts gets hurt.
Yeah, and Pickett is signed through 2025. He's a very cost-effective backup. He's only making 985,000 in cash. He had a roster bonus which the Eagles had to pay, which was under $1 million. So he's making less than $2 million to be a number two quarterback. That's actually a bargain. Next year's salary of 2.6 million is fully guaranteed. That's all he gets. That's it.
Right.
Now, because it's low money, I would expect Pickett to be the backup in 2025. But if Tanner McKee could have a great offseason next year, you never know. And it'll be McKee's third year next year, by the way.
Right. And they obviously will not be picking up Pickett's fifth year option.
No,
Right? That, yeah, no.
hell no.
Unless
No chance
the
in hell.
only way that would ever happen is if he took over and won MVP this year and led the Eagles to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
So,
like Nick Foles, right? Yeah.
there you go. All right. As the Eagles had to address some issues with depth, they signed Paris Campbell to a 1 year deal. He wound up not making the 53 cut back to the practice squad. Here's one that really, you and I were convinced he was going to make the team just because of
Yeah.
what he could
I
do
missed on that.
and
So
some of
did
the
Eagles.
guarantee money. TJ Uzama, the tight
Very
end.
little money. Very
TJ
little.
Uzama. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the guaranteed money cut that hit that they took on that? Like one
Very,
and a half?
it was small. It was around $1 million or so. But
Yeah.
because I didn't know he literally couldn't run anymore. I thought, look, again, he just need to be the wide tight end for them.
Mm-hmm.
When they go 12, let him be the wide tight end. Well, it didn't work. And then Jack Stoll got cut, and the Eagles, Jack turned down the Eagles in free agency. They offered him a deal, so the Giants, he signed with the Giants, and Jack wound up not making the team, and the Eagles were lucky to get him back because, quite frankly, Grant Calcaterra is not good enough as a blocker, which we kind of knew, but it is very apparent that Jack Stoll has to be the wide tight end.
So they're 2-2. So we'll say this through the prism of 4 weeks. The Uzama miss was a hurtful miss because they needed a guy who could block. And they've asked Calcaterra, even though Stoll is here, and remember, he wasn't elevated. He had just got to the team, had to learn the offense, so they had to play a game with EJ Jenkins, right?
That's
The
right.
lack of having a guy to be a good blocking tight end so you can have Goddard doing other stuff and then trying to run certain short yardage runs and things has hurt them in these 4 games. I mean, that it's not the biggest miss in the world, but it's wound up having a little bit of an impact here, more than I would have imagined.
Yeah, when you see Calcaterra when they go 12 and you see him try to block on the opposite side, man, he sometimes he gets blown up. He's just not strong enough. He's a good athlete. We've always known that from day one, but they're lucky to get Stoll because they don't have another Y. AJ Jenkins is really not a Y. He's a former receiver. He's the only tight end they have on the practice squad, so it's they got kind of lucky, to be able to get him back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear what his role is going to be. And by the way, they signed Jack off the practice squad, so he's on the roster.
Yep, 100%. Well, that just showed you how much they knew they needed it. So yeah, the Uzama miss hurt them. Then let's go through a couple of offensive line signings, right? They really tried to address their interior depth. Matt Hennessy to a 1 year deal. Max Sharping, the former Houston Texan and Bengal, 1 year deal. He was cut. So both those guys were cut. We were surprised by that. Not surprised, but Hennessy just did not perform well. I mean, you were pretty good with your intel on Hennessy. You kind of said, look, I mean, this guy is not going to come in here and definitely win a job. So that was smart of.
The reason why was because he had a major knee injury. He didn't even play last year, and you just can't assume. Yes, he's had a lot of starts in his career, but I forget, we don't have the numbers in front of us, but I think he only started one of the guard spots, maybe not both. But he can play center and guard, and he was really signed to be the top backup interior lineman, and he never performed. I mean, it was really obvious in training camp when he was running with the threes, like the first 2 weeks. I was like, wow, could this guy play anymore?
Yeah.
What wound up happening, you mentioned, as he got cut, the Falcons brought him back, and then this week they signed him off their practice squad, I think.
Yep.
To their 53.
Yeah. All right, couple of other depth signings. There was Nick Gates that wound up being a good signing toward the end of camp. He was cut, but then he was signed to the practice squad. Now he's on the 53. Oddly enough, they didn't put him in the game when Juergens had to come out against Tampa. They slid over Landon Dickerson. I'm not, I don't know if that's going to be the plan for every time going forward, or if it's that Gates is still learning what this offense is about. But that's what they did. They signed John Ross. He was cut. he was a good story. It was fun. It was a nice story. He clearly in camp showed though that it wasn't making a huge impact. He did re-sign to the practice squad when they got really deep, the before the Tampa Bay game, and then wound up getting elevated and playing.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, Darian Kennard, a guy they signed from the Chiefs to a 2-year deal. Now this is why I brought it up. They signed Kennard, a young kid who was a 4th round or 5th round pick of the Chiefs at one point. It didn't work out. They thought they could bring him in here, work him out at guard and tackle, see what he got. Played probably more snaps than any human being has ever played in the preseason.
Did he?
Ever.
Did he play? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he play 2 games every snap?
I
I could
believe
be.
he did. I believe he
I
did. He
I
is the
was
preseason John
blown
Rooney.
away. Yeah, preseason record. Yes,
Yeah.
I was like, why is this guy still? Don't you have anyone else you can put in who needs to get some? I don't know what the hell they were doing. It was crazy, but you know what? He made the team.
Yep.
They got rewarded. They obviously you got to give Stout credit and Howie for this one. 2 years, 2.1 million, 300 grand, fully guaranteed. He's a guard right tackle. It's weird because what I found funny, there's your replacement for Jack Driscoll, and then they brought Driscoll back.
Yeah. Well, you can never have too much good depth, Adam, you know.
Sure.
But I think you raised a good point in the post-game pod after the Bucks game. Fred Johnson struggled at right tackle, and he's really mostly played left tackle with the
Yeah.
Eagles, backup left tackle. And you do wonder if next time there's a situation where Lane Johnson can't play, will Kennard be the guy that gets the opportunity to play right tackle instead of moving Fred there?
That's something to watch because teams usually have only 8 up, sometimes 9. Again, depending on injuries. If everybody's healthy, you got a guard who can play center, so that takes up 1 spot. You generally like to have a tackle who could play 2 spots, and you always have you have to have 8 up. You can't have 7. That's ridiculous. But now Kennard could play 2 positions. Driscoll's on the practice squad, by the way. Fred is really a left, who's they cross-train to play right. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But Kennard looks like, look, they saw something. I remember you told us back in March that there's something the Eagles saw in him. Maybe it was positional versatility. And so far they've been rewarded for it. Although I guess he was inactive for the first couple games? I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he was inactive the first couple of games.
Yeah, yeah. So here's the thing, before we move to defense. Look at all the receivers they brought in, right? Parker signed a 1-year deal, retired in 3rd week of May, right? Didn't work out. Missed on that because he retired. Not their fault that he retired, but they don't have him. That they were going to depend on him to be a backup X. Paris Campbell didn't have much in training camp. We all saw it. Anyone who was there saw, like, boy, he didn't move real well. We knew he wasn't going to make the team. He didn't. They signed him to the practice squad. He worked his way through it. He did score against Tampa Bay, and now they're out of elevations, by the way, with him. All right, so it has been terrible, but he clearly doesn't have a lot left. Doesn't look like he has much. So and then John Ross doesn't have much left. So man, the depth, this is what we've learned. Their depth at receiver is bad. It's not going to get any better for what they have on the 53 on the practice squad. So they're going to have to do something by the trade deadline, or start working guys out. We'll get a hold of their workout list.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to add somebody who can play. They just have to. They can't go through this again.
Would you call it a troubling trend? Because this was an issue last year, their depth at number 3 receiver. You know, they brought in Olamide Zaccheaus. He had some moments, but not enough. And it was Quez's regression forced them into thinking that they needed to sign Julio Jones. And then you were kind of rotating number 3 receivers in there. And just by the end of the year, when you were collapsing, you weren't getting anything out. If it wasn't AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, you really weren't getting anything out of your interior receivers.
Yeah, they have to do a better job of evaluating. You mentioned interior, but interior or outside receivers in general for backup. It just hadn't worked out. Now, we should mention, obviously, Covey getting hurt didn't help because he wanted to have a really good training camp.
Right.
Got off to a good start, then fractured his shoulder. And he was the backup slot.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is they've got to do a better job of evaluating. They've just missed on too many players at the receiver position. You're absolutely right. And Quez's regression made it easy for them. There was no way in hell he was coming back. So they got to do something, man. This is, as we said before, when Brown and Smith got hurt, yes, there's going to be a downgrade, obviously. But it can't be so bad that you can't function.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could say, hey, Hurts needs to pull the trigger, he needs to do this, that, the other. He doesn't, he's not responsible for these guys getting open and becoming good pass targets or good enough. Like that's on the front office. They got to do a better job of adding better players.
Maybe they should have signed Sterling Shepard, or does he only catch passes against the Eagles?
That
So,
was crazy. You want to talk about a guy who's been through the ringer with injuries.
uh,
He's had torn Achilles,
oh
ACL.
yeah,
I think he might have two ACLs.
yeah.
And I know you just talked about him against the Eagles last week. I mean, it's he got pressed in a service to play on the outside where he's really not a guy that's made his money there. He's made it inside, and he did a good job. But that's one thing that they have to do better is find guys who could really help them, just not be such a bad downgrade after the two studs are out.
Definitely. All right, we'll get to the defensive additions as well. All right, before we move on, Adam, I know everybody is excited and juiced up and amped up because it all starts tomorrow. Red October for the Philadelphia Phillies. It starts tomorrow. And like I keep saying, I'm not afraid of any team. I'm just more afraid of the Phillies.
Yeah, could you? Are they
That's
good?
the only
Well,
team
let me
that
ask you
scares
this:
me.
they should scare you, but here's the question: is it their hitting or the pitching or both?
What do you think?
Got to be the hitting.
It's the swinging at bad pitches. Yeah,
Yep,
that's
yep,
what scares me.
chasing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, with Ranger, I'm concerned. Could Sanchez win on the road? I'm concerned. But yeah, and then the bullpen got a little rocky late there.
Little bit, little bit.
It's
You
still pretty
still gotta
good.
like you gotta like the Nola, Wheeler, and let's say Sanchez now as your top three instead of Suarez. You still have to
Yep,
like that against pretty much anybody until you have to see
sure.
maybe the Dodgers. But for
Uh-huh.
now, listen, for now the Phillies are the only ones that scare me. But it's going to be electric. That's what I look forward to. The crowds at the bank are going to be unbelievable, and of course there are going to be a lot of people looking for tickets and not just looking for tickets, right? They're going to want to find the best tickets and the best value. And that's why they've got to use the Game Time app. You've heard us talk about it. There's nothing better than seeing your favorite teams play live, and Game Time helps you with their Game Time picks. It filters out all the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You have to take advantage of what they call their super deal. And they have other tiers of deals as well, but these are deals that will show you the best value for the best row. And it's a really easy function on the app. I mean, 2 or 3 taps, you got what you want, you get what you need. They show you the prices up front. It's the all-in price guarantee that I absolutely love. No hidden fees, no extra fees at checkout. And of course, you're covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. If you find a better price, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And then there's the event cancellation and job loss protection. And by the way, if you're just not into sports, which would be weird because you're listening to our Inside the Birds podcast, but
Yeah.
if you're not into baseball, if you just
Okay.
like football and nothing else, and you just want to see a comedy show or a concert, Game Time's got you covered on that as well. So if you need tickets, use the Game Time app. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets using Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Adam, before we go on to defense, also, got to say thank you. A special shout out to John G, Todd, Oniabo. All of them signed up to our Patreon channel this week. Of course, Curtis and Anthony upgraded. So we should probably give a big shout out to Eric, who convinced his brother Oniabo to sign up, right?
That was great.
That was my
Thank you.
best sales job that I could do,
Good
and it
job.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said it in the live stream with everybody, right? That was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny.
Good job. No, we loved it. That I got to tell you that live stream we did was phenomenal Wednesday, and that's where we put a lot of stuff out, a lot of really high level stuff. We go deep into the trenches, so to speak, and it's good. And then Greg's, what is it, Tuesday night at 8 Eastern?
Ask Greg Cosell was fantastic. The questions were great. Yep.
They
Tuesday
run
night,
it.
8
They
o'clock.
essentially run it. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah. And Greg always contacts us after and be like, wow, those are really good questions. So it's a great community. It keeps getting bigger. We keep adding, and we thank everybody who's joining up. And if you haven't, I'm telling you, we treat you like gold. Just go to patreon.com/inside the birds. Up this week alone, on top of what we mentioned, we
Oh,
had a great Chalk Talk series chat with Brian Hoyer, who graced us with an unbelievable story about Vic Fangio confusing him with former Eagles quarterback Bobby Hoying, which was great. But also, Brian has not only gave you a great perspective on playing quarterback in this league, the changing dynamics of defenses, but he was in Indianapolis with Nick Sirianni. He was in Chicago when Vic Fangio was there, gave us some really great insight on these guys as coaches and some great stories. He's really a great person to talk to. I mean, he had a lot of really awesome stuff.
Yeah, so I've known Brian for it's really since he was signed as an undrafted free agent with the Patriots and to be Brady's backup. The next time we're going to have him on, we got to talk about Brady. We didn't even get, we didn't, it went so, in fact, it was way longer than we anticipated. So the next time we have him on, we got to talk about Brady and what makes him so great. And I'm sure he's got unbelievable stories. I mean, you and I know because we saw it in practice many years ago. But definitely want to get into that. And by the way, Brian came close to signing with the Eagles years ago.
Yeah.
Forget what team it was either the Eagles or some other team. So and by the way, he is not retired. He's available. He's doing media. He's got a podcast with and a show with David Andrews, the Patriots starting center. And he's hosts on NFL radio Thursday with Solomon Wilcots, the morning show. So he's doing great, and we'll see what happens with him. And don't forget about Ask an Eagle. We did last month. It was awesome with Quentin Michael, who loved it, right?
Yep.
That was great.
That was fantastic.
So and we're also on Discord. We join in with everybody there. Patreon.com/InsideTheBirds to sign up.
There you go. Oh, and by the way, everything on Patreon is early and ad-free. So everybody who's listening to this podcast on the main platform, the Patreon people aren't hearing us talk about it because I take it, ads are removed. So they didn't even know that I was mentioning them.
Nice job.
So good stuff there. All right. Let us talk about the defense, right? This is like a big sigh because you start to go through some of the signings and you're like, wow. Obviously, the big marquee signing was Bryce Huff, 3 years, 51.3 million with 34 million fully guaranteed. Now, if you're Saquon Barkley, you're like, whoa.
Can I get that?
Just got how much, Gary? And look what I'm doing, and I got less than that.
Listen, so here we talked about this on the live stream on Wednesday, I think it was, yeah. But look, I get why the Eagles signed him. He's a young ascending player, okay, based on what they saw. It was a jump to go from being a designated pass rusher, DPR, to a full-time starter. I get that. That's a jump. But what they didn't anticipate that they would know. There isn't any way they would know it because you don't know until you get there. But he absolutely flourished in a wide nine. Okay, that's the Niners, the Jets, and a couple other teams run that. And because Saleh came from the Niners, Chris Kusarik is their D-line coach. Kusarik is a Schwartz guy. You see all the tie-ins here. And Huff did great in it. No question. Eagles obviously saw him. He had a good game. He had that quality rush. He had that rush that when Hurts did the backpedal through the pick, I think. So last year. So look, the guy had a good career with the Jets. You understand. $17 million a year for a free agent pass rusher who's young and looks like he's got a chance to be a pretty good player is very fair. Unfortunately, he's been terrible here. Through 4 games. We're being honest here. Training camp was not very good either. To the point where, like, remember when we would say on our shows, boy, the pass rush doesn't look good. Let's not rush to judgment. We're just putting it out there. Doesn't look good. Let's get the regular season first. As I said on the last show, it's been way worse than I anticipated. I just can't believe how bad the pass rush is.
Yeah.
I've never seen it like this. Can you remember a year where the pass rush is this anemic?
Maybe in a Billy Davis year. So it's been quite a while.
Okay.
Wow. Been a really long time.
Yeah. I mean, no, BGs look really good, but 36. I don't see anything. I know it's only 4 games. Huff has been so below the radar and so below what's even acceptable. I don't see anything positive in sight to get him to be at least a decent contributor. He's been that bad.
Yeah.
And what else could I say? I don't know what else we could say.
I agree with you. I'd be shocked if Vic Fangio and the staff, maybe Jeremiah Washburn, maybe even Clint Hurt, are not spending some time during the bye week as they do their self scout. Maybe going back, looking at some tape, Jets tape, seeing It's yes, they know he flourished there in certain like wide nine, but like really going into that tape, seeing where he's aligned, who he's aligned opposite, and when he did his best work, and seeing if they
Yeah,
can't
good
figure
idea.
out a way to put him in those similar alignments, positions, scenarios. I mean, I think the idea of him being a three down lineman is pretty far fetched at this point, but
Oh, hell no.
if he could at least be, I know, right? But if he could at least get you some juice on second and long, third down, and make
Yeah.
his money there, then I
But
mean, right
make
now
him a
you're not.
DPR
Right
again.
now you're
Make him
not
a
worried
D.
about the paycheck. You're just worried about getting something
Yes,
out of him.
true. Yes, the
Yeah,
coaches don't care about that. The front
right.
office sure does, but no, you just said it. Maybe they make him a DPR again just to build up his confidence and wide nine and because I know they play some wide nine and they play seven on the other side.
Right.
I know they're doing some wide nine, so not a lot, but maybe they got to do something. They got to do
Yeah.
something.
I mean, maybe they'll see that if you stunt him or twist him, he's really athletic and he can beat a guard. Like, I don't know, but like there's got to be something that they can find in the tape to at least do better than what he's been able to do now. But this
Yeah.
is clearly long term one of their biggest issues because not just him, but nobody else
Yeah.
um, among the edges. I mean, Brandon's playing well, but it's not like BG's playing like Von Miller 6 years ago. I mean,
Sure,
his
I get
ceiling
it.
is, they don't have anybody who's impacting the game from a pass rush standpoint at
No one.
all.
No one. No one. No. I mean, the Saints game, it was scheme based. They made some great Fangio had a great game there. Tampa Bay was not one of Vic's great games, but anyway, so they were able to do something against New Orleans. But man, again, it's only 4 games. Their schedule eases up. They're very lucky that their schedule's going to ease up after the bye, but it doesn't guarantee anything. And I mean, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, and I know they've had their own problems and their offensive line is terrible. We'll get more into that next week. But man, if you could block, they should be able to block, despite how bad their tackle situation's been. Cleveland, they're both of the right and left tackles have been hurt for most of
Yeah.
the game so far. But you just, if you're an offense coordinator, why would you worry about the Eagles pass rush? I mean, what is there to be concerned about? They can't rush the passer at
Not
all.
keeping anybody in. That's it. Maybe a little chip here and there, but that's it. That's all.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this really quick question as
Mhm.
a national person that you are.
Sure.
Any chance you think if it gets really bad for the Raiders that they would trade Max Crosby?
No, because of what he means to the team.
I
Uh,
figured you would say that. Yeah.
yeah, he's a heart and soul. He's not like he's an older player. It's one thing. Devontae Adams is 31 years old, right? I think he's
Right.
31.
Right. And plus he just got there a couple like 2 years
Yeah, I
ago.
mean
It's
he
not like a
turns
Raider for life. Yeah.
he turns 32 in December. Generally,
Right.
receivers lose their legs early, their explosiveness early 30s. So you could certainly and Tom Telesco, he has personnel control. He's the GM. He just got there.
Yeah.
He didn't sign him. I mean, he didn't trade for him. So you could understand if it goes like it looks like it's probably going to go. That he's going to be moved at some point soon,
Hmm.
relatively soon.
Hmm.
But in the end, with Bryce Huff, they just got to. And the other thing is, before we move on, they got to build his confidence up. He looks like he has no confidence
I agree. I agree. I
somehow.
believe Andrew DeCecco even discussed that a little bit
Okay.
inside the locker. Yeah, he just felt like he was swimming a little bit and just didn't have any answers. So coach has got to give him answers. We'll see what happens. Uh, so linebacker, they obviously went to work at the inside linebacker spot because they can never sign anybody for the long term at that position. So you got to have two new ones every year.
You had to say
Uh,
that. Good.
yeah, I had to get my shot in there. How's TJ Edwards
True.
doing? Oh, really good. Okay.
That's not good.
So look, Zach Bond looks like a good deal right now. 1 year, 3.5 million. It's all fully guaranteed. And he has been their most productive linebacker. Surprisingly, we were a little skeptical, but they've made it work. It's looked good. He's still learning some of the nuances of the game. We saw
Yeah.
that in the Falcons game where he kept getting cut blocked by Lidstrom, but in general, doing a very good job.
Yeah, it's been a nice story because when I saw the money, I'm like, all right, 3.5 million, but all of it fully guaranteed. That's sort of low end starter, high end backup money, but more low end starter. We'll see what happens, and it's a position he's never played before. I love when Fangio said I did because he was asked by the media. It was actually a good question about how did he know he could play inside because he had not really played it, but by formation with the Saints, you could see he was sort of aligned inside, though he was he was playing a little bit strong side linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we saw it in training camp. Wow, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, which is what we really were told. But he didn't. It wasn't like great or anything. But he had a crazy game. Was it Green Bay where he had the zillion tackles?
Yes, Green Bay. It was like 15 tackles, 2 sacks. I mean, he was
Yeah.
like putting up like Brian Urlacher type of
Yeah,
numbers.
Saints. I think the Saints game was really good. Now he had 2 games where he'd probably like to have back,
Yeah,
but he's been a nice story, good dude from what I hear. And this is kind of one of those. You know what? Maybe he's got some lasting power. We shall see.
that's right. We will. So that wound up being a good signing at inside linebacker. The other one that everybody kind of thought would be a really good signing at inside
Everyone,
linebacker, Devin White, 1 year deal,
everyone,
fully
not us.
guaranteed. Wait,
Yeah,
what? Yeah,
not
oh well,
us.
no. I was going to add to that.
Yeah,
I was going to
good.
say, Devin White signs 1 year, about 5 million, all fully guaranteed. Gee, who would have thought that that would be a disaster? Oh, and we
Well,
did
yeah.
say on this
I'm not.
podcast a couple of times, don't get so excited about this. It may not be what you want it to be.
No, what I said was what I said back then was okay. Now his 4.99 1 million became fully guaranteed because he was on the opening day roster. It was 3.5 million fully guaranteed at signing. The rest of it became fully guaranteed when he was on the week 1 roster. So it's 1 year, basically 5 million for a guy who probably will not play for them. I
That's
don't.
crazy that they knew going into the season
His tape was terrible last
that,
year. I don't
no,
understand.
I'm saying I know. And after training camp, they knew that they weren't going to start him. And yet you said the first day of the season is when that fully guaranteed money kicked in.
Yes, yeah, as a vested veteran, he never been cut before, so he's eligible for termination pay, and
Wow.
he's
So they could have
yeah.
cut him and
Yeah,
saved
they
five
could they
million.
could have right, but again, they already own 3.5 million, which is fully guaranteed at signing. So the rest of it was
Right.
what
So you could have
1.5
saved
million.
about yeah, 1.5. I mean, if
But
I would understand if you're like, we might play, but like they haven't played him. They have not
no,
played him, and they
and
don't look like they plan to.
here's the thing on that. Go back to training camp when he had the most snaps of the inside backers, only in training camp, okay? Not after the media left.
Mm-hmm.
Media didn't see the final 2 weeks. It's pretty obvious that something happened, or he was well, by the way, he was starting to give up snaps to Nakobe.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. It was very close between Nakobe I remember going to Mike Gill's show. I'm saying, why is Nakobe Dean not starting over Devin White? This makes no sense to me.
Yep.
I just couldn't understand. I was like, what is going on here? And then we found out Nakobe started over. And not only that, he got demoted to Devin White. He's their 6th inside backer, folks. 6th.
Right, because you have Oren Burks here. He can give you that veteran presence, and he's a disciplined player who comes from the San Francisco
Yeah.
system. So he signs a 1 year deal. He wound up getting cut. I remember he had the injury, but so then he re-signed. I just don't understand them why they didn't just move on from
Just
Devin
suck it
White
up
and
and
try
just
to
cut
save
him.
the 1.5 because
I
I
agree
don't
with
even
you.
think you're going to play
Yeah.
him at this point.
And there's an offset on his money. So yeah, again, what scenario could you see? Let's go over it real quick before we move on. Bond and
Okay.
Dean are your starters. Although Dean, he needs to play better, but didn't we talk about that with Greg this week on our Inside the Tape show with
Yeah.
they're tackling, right? Dean
Yeah.
didn't play well this last game, right?
Right. He did not.
Trot's not ready, although he did some good things at training camp. Trot's on the roster. Trot Jr.'s on the roster. Burks is healthy. He's their biggest physically at inside backer.
Right.
He might, now that he's totally healthy, could get more snaps.
Yep.
And Vince Zimmer is the 5th.
Right.
You only dress 4 inside backers at most. You dress 3 or 4 when you were running odd man front. When you're starting you have two inside backers generally is your base, right?
Yep.
So you dress 4. Vince Zimmer is your 5th. You don't need to, but he plays on specials. And hey, he played fullback last week.
Yeah.
You don't dress 6, folks. I know we saw on our YouTube board, everyone's like, oh, they got to play Devin White now. Why?
Yeah, he wouldn't even be to our understanding because he's been active, right? Anyway, he wouldn't even be the next man in. It would be Burks, you would think, would be the next man in if they were to, yeah, like so. I don't know. I feel like Devin White is destined to be this year's Rashad Penny. He's gonna be on the team, make his money, and never play. It's weird to me, but whatever.
Well, no, but on your
Not my
point,
money.
that's the point. With Rashad Penny, only reason why he played is because the coaches got forced to play him.
Right.
Boston Scott, I think, had a concussion.
Yes, because he also was inactive for several games until.
Yeah, I mean, it just now the money was less with Rashad, but who retired, by the way. But it was so funny because people would ask us, why isn't he playing? Why isn't he playing? Folks, memo. When a guy doesn't play, it's because the coaches don't want to play the player.
Right.
What more
Eh,
do you need? That's the way it works.
It's like memo on top of the addendum. And the addendum was, remember, he was benched last year. He was benched by his team.
Yeah.
So he was already on the what's was it, the downward trend. So
Yeah.
it's weird.
I,
Anyway,
I, look, going forward, Jacoby's got to play better. Would it surprise anyone that Burke starts cutting to his playing time? No. Why would it surprise you? He's a veteran who's started games before. He's got good length, pretty smart football player.
yeah.
We'll see what happens.
There you go. All right, the last major signing, and I thought, man, I still think we probably would expect this to work out better, but you have to have a
Yeah.
little bit of concern after 4 games that the age and the injury have taken their toll, and that's CJ Gardner Johnson. He signed the 3-year, $27 million deal, got 10 fully guaranteed. I know it's structured like the big thing is that this is structured like a 1-year deal.
It is
They
correct.
can get out, right?
Easily. They would owe him $2 million fully guaranteed next year. That's not going to keep playing on the roster. He's got to play well.
Right.
So it's a 3-year deal with a 1-year structure. I know it's only 4 games, and Vic called him out for the tackling. He's got to tackle better, but he was special 2 years ago. He was phenomenal with the Eagles, 22. Bring the swagger, the play. He backed it up, by the way, 2 years ago. He backed it up.
Yep.
But he got hurt. He had the lacerated kidney. He got hurt with the Lions. And here, there's been no big plays. He didn't play particularly well. He's got to pick it up, or it's just going to be a 1-year situation for him.
Lord knows there were opportunities to make plays, and because Baker Mayfield threw the ball 33 times in the first half alone. So you put the ball in the air that much, there should be opportunities to make plays. But this guy flipped the field like nobody else 2 years ago for the Eagles. But so far, field's being flipped the wrong way for the Eagles through 4 games. So
Talented guy. I'm not sure what needs to happen. He's just other than the tackling. But Vic's, and we're going to talk when we do it. We're going to do a self scout next week for the roster. Vic's got to look at everything. Now, it's not just the run defense, which has been mostly atrocious. Like Gardner Johnson, and we'll ask Greg if he's noticing anything the way he's been used. But you're just not seeing playmakers set. Pressure rate is terrible. Overall, generally terrible. No big plays. I get it's only 4 games, but something's got to give here. They got to get things going. The coaching staff's got to get things going here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, some other moves that happened. Now, the big move that sort of set a lot of the offseason in motion defensively for the Eagles was the fact that they didn't cave to Hassan Reddick and they traded him. I remember we came back from the combine and you had said like
Senior Bowl.
not,
Actually,
Senior Bowl, yeah, and
Yeah.
you're not getting strong vibes about that relationship there. So they trade him to the Jets. Now, here's what's interesting, Adam, right? They get a 2026 conditional 3rd-round pick. It could become a second if he has at least 10 sacks and plays 67.5% of the snaps. I have so many questions about this. Like, I would start off, how'd you come up with 67.5?
Well, 3/4. Yeah. What do they know he's going to hold out or
In the wheel?
I didn't know that then. I might have. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, why not 67 and a quarter?
3/4. Yeah, yeah. It's funny. It's funny.
But no. Look, I could believe the 10 sacks can still happen if he shows up because he doesn't need too many games to get 10 sacks. But I don't know at this point, missing 4 games already, if he can play 67.5% of the team's total defensive snaps. Every game you miss, those snaps accrue, and the number of snaps you can play in that percentage get lower. Plus, it's not like he's going to play 100% of the snaps in every game that he plays.
And I don't know how this would work if I know the Jets are steadfast that they're not trading Reddick, but if they change their mind, I don't know how this would work. I don't know how the terms would I don't know if anything would change, but yeah, this Reddick thing is God, son, what is he doing? It's just I don't get it.
I don't know. By the way, just to clarify, it is 67.5% of the Jets' overall defensive.
I know, defensive snap.
So I don't want people to think, oh, if he just plays 80% of snaps every week when he comes back, then he's good. No, it's got to be of the team's
entire
defensive
season.
Snap. Right. That's
Season,
hard.
correct.
You're rotating as it is. Will McDonald's off to a nice start. You're not going to play like the entire game when you do get back.
Here's why. Jermaine
Johnson.
His Achilles. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they've been hitting the quarterback pretty good for the last 2 weeks.
I thought he would have Hassan would have leverage now but Jody, I respect their stance.
Hmm.
Because the way it was explained to me was that supposedly his son told them when they couldn't get a deal done at the time of the trade, "Hey, I'm going to come in, I'll report, I'm going to ball out, and I'll get my deal next year." That was their understanding. Supposedly he didn't see it that way. He
Hmm.
thought they were still going to give him a deal. Now the Jets, as I understand it, had he reported, they were probably willing to adjust his deal, not give him a new deal, but adjust the
Right.
money for this year.
Right.
That's
Right.
out the door. I don't know how you make this right because he's lost so much money. I just don't see what they can do. It's really I feel really bad for him.
Yeah. Well, I
It's
kind of don't because I
terrible.
feel like no agent would recommend this. I
Of
feel
course,
like
that's
this
my
is his
point though. But
decision and
yeah.
he's making a bad decision.
Yes, but I feel bad that he's making a bad decision that's costing.
Okay. I get you. I
You
get
know what I mean? When
it.
Le'Veon Bell made that dumb decision not to play, that ruined his career.
Yeah.
Absolutely ruined it.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, he's sounds better than that. I just don't know what. I don't know the guy, but I just don't. He's guy's been around a long time. For all the Arizona screwing with him, not using him the right way, balls
Yeah.
out with the Panthers. As you correctly said, I'll never forget it. We got the contract breakdown. You go, oh, he's going to want a deal after 1 year. I think he said that or two.
Right.
It's exactly what he wanted. He didn't get it. And then it's sad. It really I feel bad for the guy. If he turns 30 now and you don't play this year, which is realistic, we'll see what happens. But it's hard to get that money back.
Yep. Well, the other kind of big move on the line is a guy they brought back, but with a pay cut, and that was Josh Sweat, right? He was was that one of those situations where they also gave him permission to seek a trade because they knew he wasn't going to come back at the money
I
that.
don't remember that. I just remember that they were not happy with the way he played last season. Obviously, he dropped off. We talked about how other teams told us he didn't look right physically, though one source close to the situation said he's fine physically. There's nothing wrong with him. Okay. But
Hmm.
the tape showed otherwise. But that's fine. Good. He's good. Didn't play well. He took a massive pay cut. He's going to make 10 million this year. There's nothing wrong with that, fully guaranteed. But um, he's been okay. He's had some good rushes, but overall, he's not the same player as one pro personnel source from another team told us. He does not have the get off anymore. Clearly, does not from tape study. This guy would know because it's his job. This guy was assigned the Eagles of his team's schedule that he works for. So he said Sweat doesn't look like the same player.
Right.
He's only 27 years old, but they don't have anybody else right now. He's got to play, and he's just got to do what he can. He's trying hard, but he just doesn't have the lift they used to have.
Yeah, this was a good shrewd maneuver by Howie Roseman because he got a guy back who you're relying on right now at less money because the production wasn't there, and they saw that probably wasn't going to be the way it used to be this year either. So and nobody offered them, anything that would make them want to make the deal. So he's back at a discount. I can't shrewd move there. And as we finish this off, like you can kill Howie on linebacker, absolutely Devin White, because the scouting report wasn't good coming out of being benched. You can kill him on backup receiver because it's 2 years now that he hasn't. I agree with you. I've thought about this. I think you said this in the live stream, and I sort of challenge you, but I've thought about it. I have a hard time killing him on Bryce Huff. Only because young, explosive, did well. Like usually, that's the kind of move that has worked for him. And I don't know if he could have predicted that it would be this of much of a struggle for Bryce Huff. So I'm not going to bang him in the personnel staff too much for that one. The other ones, you should have known what you were getting into.
Yeah, I think with it's a learning experience not only for the Eagles but for other clubs. When you take a guy who's played a specific way and you ask him to do something completely different,
Yeah.
or play, he was a hand down, hand in the dirt pass rusher. Now you have him standing up somewhat, a decent amount. And I know that Vic shot down. He doesn't drop a lot. He said it this week. That's fine, but he's just not comfortable. And again, the league will look at this and it's a shame. And yeah, they're we talk about Sweaty and by the way, Avante Maddox, 1 year, 2 million, who was a safety in training camp because of the low numbers at safety. They just didn't have any depth.
Right.
And Greg really outlined it at corner at nickel. He just did not the same play. Doesn't look right. He doesn't look the same. It's
Right.
like he's lost a lot. And to the point where Cooper DeJean is now moving in on it, you could see coming out. That's the one move you could see
Mm-hmm.
is either he's the full-time nickel or they start cutting Avante's time down.
Yep.
So that's Cooper's healthy.
That's why I don't kill Howie on that either. I mean, they let Maddox, they didn't
Yeah,
bring him back immediately. They
only
let
two
him test the
million.
market. He didn't
Yeah.
get a good deal, so they brought him back. They brought in a challenger in Tyler Hall,
Oh,
who didn't beat him out, right? They
yeah.
drafted Cooper DeJean, and no doubt if Cooper DeJean did not miss 3 weeks because of the hamstring, they probably would have been the starting nickel. If not by now, or if not by the opener, by probably not long after that. So I don't kill them for bringing back a guy who knew their defense because they were already looking at Cooper DeJean and they brought in others to they had some other guys on the team too. Like Ricks had played some nickel. So it's not like they just left themselves bare with Avonte Maddox. It's just unfortunate DeJean got hurt and didn't really get to challenge him.
As a matter of fact, nah, Avante would have made it because he would have made it as a backup safety because again, it was only 2 million.
Right.
But by the way, Tyler Hall signed with the Jaguars practice squad this week. Boy, he had some good moments in training camp. Then he faded, and they cut him. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so basically, as we go, if we'll get to the draft class later. But as we went through this, offensively, I mean, look, the apple of this whole thing was Barkley's been a great signing so far. You mentioned it earlier. It's obvious they have to do a better job of evaluating receivers in free agency in terms of depth. It's a major problem. And they missed on a bunch of it wasn't the money, it's nothing to do with it, but a guy like Hennessy, Sharping, that negated that actually made them not negated, but actually made them sign Nick Gates, who's
Right.
got a position versatility at center guard, and to bring back Driscoll. And the Kennard one worked. So offensively, it's been fine. I mean, Becton's been
Mm-hmm.
a great story as well. I should mention that.
Yeah.
But the big ones on defense, they just missed so far on too many players.
Right. I mean, if you're a glass half full guy, Saquon Barkley saved the season. If you're a glass half empty guy, Bryce Huff has ruined the season. So it's just
No.
it's
Real
just the way it is.
I'd be disappointed. And I've seen the Venom. The
Uh-huh.
guy's trying hard. He's trying hard. It's just not happening.
Right.
Vaughn's been a great story. White was a mistake. Burks, we'll have to see. Garner Johnson, I'm a little surprised. I don't know what I really have no idea what I don't know if this is going to work. I'm so
Yeah.
disappointed. I don't
Yeah.
know what to think, but it's only 4 games.
No, but there is now an alarming trend forming of how he secondary moves as far as, bring him. He gave Bradbury the extension. That didn't work out. Wait, is Bradbury still on? Oh, he's on IR, right?
Yeah, he's on IR, yeah.
That didn't work out.
But you
Darius
understood
Slay,
why they did it though.
of course, but it didn't work out. And
Yeah.
the Slay thing is interesting. They paid him a lot of money too. He's been uneven. I mean, you need him right now, but he's been uneven. CJ Gardner Johnson's off to a bad start. So it just hasn't been look, you hope the draft picks work because that's why they're here. And we'll get into the draft in a second. First, let's pause to hear a word from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, folks, make sure you stop in if you can to Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, and tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal. And we keep telling you, the car buying experience at Sky Motor Cars compared to anywhere else is like night and day. It's a great place. You'll get great customer service, great inventory, and save yourself the stress from what's going on and trying to buy a car these days. It is not fun.
That's true.
All right. The draft class, obviously there's a lot to be determined here and left. I mean, a lot of people are liking, even though he struggled a little bit at times, the Sterling Shepard off coverage that he gave up was almost inexcusable. But
By the
Quinyon,
way,
go ahead.
Shepard scored Thursday night. I'm just going to throw that in there. Go ahead.
Yeah.
For the Bucks.
But
Go ahead.
Quinyon Mitchell has been a pleasure to watch, just grow, develop, and then hey, he's not, as most people have seen on social media, he gave it the verbal abuse to Mike Evans, and Mike Evans then went to the sideline later in the game, was like, this guy's the only guy playing hard out there. Basically, he's like the only guy bringing juice. So it was kind of funny. Fans really got a kick out of that. So I like Quinyon Mitchell. I think he's got good days ahead. We pointed this out a lot, and it's couldn't be truer. He only played off coverage in college, and so he really has to learn the techniques and the physicality and the mindset of playing up. And you hope that comes soon. I imagine it will, but so it doesn't surprise me that that's an area where he's not yet mastered.
Yeah, Quinyon is, as soon as he was drafted, we're like, okay, folks, it's real simple. He's going to start week 1 as long as he knows what he's doing. I know people thought oh, he's a rookie. Remember when he's running third team? We're like, it doesn't matter in
Yeah.
OTAs, folks.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Let's get to training camp first. He's going to start as long as he knows what he's doing. They draft him to start. Draft him to be a backup. You don't draft a first round pick to not start year 1 unless the guy if he's not ready. As long as he's ready, he's starting. Now, you just nailed it. This is a learning experience playing man coverage. They don't play a lot of man. They're bottom 5 in man coverage, bottom 5, 5 and 7. It's just a work in progress. He's got to get used to it. He hasn't done it. The only time he did it was at the Senior Bowl. We all saw it when we were there. He's real smooth. He's tough mentally, short memory, high character, really smart kid, got good length. He's ahead of schedule. Yes, you're right. He's going to take his lumps every once in a while, but in terms of being a rookie, he's ahead of schedule. He's better than probably people thought he would be. Because remember, he went to University of Toledo.
Yeah.
That's
I'm impressed. It's hitting on a first round corner is not easy.
Yep.
I mean, you see a lot of misses at that position.
He was the only one, right? He was the only first round corner, I think.
No. Nate Wiggins went in the first round.
Why did I think? Oh no, he's the first one. Duh, I'm wrong.
Yeah, he was the first corner taken, right? I think there were 3. Yeah. Wasn't there another one taken?
Terry and Arnold, maybe.
Terry and Arnold. Yeah.
No, he's good.
As for corners, obviously second round Cooper DeJean. We're waiting on him to establish himself there in that nickel spot. And as we move on, I wonder if this pass rush continues to falter, if Jalex Hunt, who did play 5 snaps against Tampa, will get a chance to see if he can defy the odds. He was considered a guy who was not going to make an impact this year, but maybe he can.
A couple things on DeJean. So he is really a defensive back. He's a safety, maybe down the line. Every team you and I talked to said he's going to be safety. He's not a corner, outside corner.
Safety or nickel. I did get, a couple of thought he could be like a starting nickel.
But outside corner, like the Eagles might be the only team that thought he could play outside corner, but it only matters what they think. We'll see long term. We don't know yet where he's going to line up. We know this year he's going to play nickel, which is what we thought, and we were told that's where he would play this year. They didn't expect him to get hurt. He missed 3 weeks of training camp due to a hamstring issue. So we have to see, but he also is a punt returner. Mixed reviews so far, because again, he missed too much time. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an incomplete. We don't know much about him yet, but we know he's going to be here a long time. Jalex Hunt, I don't want to say he's ahead of schedule. I just want to say that, yes, he's raw. Yes, he's new as an edge rusher. He's a former safety. It's kind of crazy because he had that late growth spurt around 19 years old. But he's super smart, real coachable, wants to be great. I'm not making any predictions because you just talked on it. He's got a long way to go. But you mentioned the 5 snaps. Let's just see if they give him a little bit more and a little bit more. There's an opportunity there. I know they have a lot of guys, but depth is not about how many guys you have. It's about how many guys could perform.
Yep.
Hunt's a guy you want to take a look at. Whatever opportunity he gets, low leverage time, see what happens, and increase. We'll see what happens. And then, so that's the first 3 rounds. And then, Will Shipley, could you explain to me what the hell was with that 1 snap and then they pulled him?
No. Next. I got nothing. I don't
understand it. But I like the pony package in week 1 with the 4 snaps, all motion plays, I believe. He can return kicks.
Yep.
I think he's got a chance here. We know he can catch the football. We have to look into, is he maybe not a good pass protector? I don't know what the hell the problem is. I don't understand why they're not playing him more.
Yeah, I mean, even if he's not, you can still figure out, like they do with the pony package, first, second down ways to sort of with motion and quick hitter plays where you don't have to worry about the pass protection. But yeah, so far.
Or over Gainwell. I'm just saying over Gainwell a little bit. That's because what we saw in training camp, you could see it was coming because they were doing that, and then they're not doing the regular season. So we'll see.
All right, Anaya Smith is on IR. So he's the wide receiver from Texas A&M, was it? Or
correct?
Yeah, A&M, right? Yeah, Texas A&M. So we'll see if he can come back at some point and make an impact. You talked about Jeremiah Trotter, inside linebacker, not ready yet, but it would not surprise, I don't think, either of us if, as the middle of the season, the end of, if they're having some issues at linebacker, it wouldn't surprise me if they figure out a way to get him on the field.
Yeah, you know what? That's it. They may just start going through guys, Burks, then Trot Jr., Van Sumeren maybe, and then if the bottom completely falls out and they have no other choice, Devin White, because they're paying him. So, but
Yeah.
right now he's 6 on the depth chart, folks. When you only play 4.
And the next 3 picks are well, I was going to say Johnny Wilson in the 6th, like a depth pick. It was supposed to be. No one thought he would be starting games. But Trevor Keegan, the guard out of Michigan in the 5th, Johnny Wilson, the wide receiver out of Florida State in the 6th, and Dylan McMahon, who is not even with the team, 6th round out of Boston College, undersized center, who is now with the Rams on their practice squad.
Yeah, so Keegan's really a one positional guard. He's got to show he could play both. I know he's got maybe center down the line. But we were told that other teams had issues with his upper body, shoulders, and so forth. They were concerned long term, kind of your Michigan guard, run based offense, maybe beat up physically a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's been. I know he had a minor injury in training camp, but hey, he's on the roster. Johnny Wilson is basically a blocking receiver. Doesn't really do much else. Did had a one nice 11-yard catch this season, but he's got a long way to go. And you mentioned McMahon; he was cut, passed through waivers on claim, which is surprising that nobody wanted him. 31 other teams didn't want to claim him. Wasn't claimed. Resigned to the Eagles practice squad. Rams signed him off, and that's that.
There you go. Is Michigan becoming the new Alabama as far as players go to the NFL and they're just banged up and hurt? I mean, it starts with Ojabo tearing his Achilles, was it?
Was at the pro day.
At his pro day. JJ McCarthy out for the year, right? Keegan is just had some upper body on him. No, there's more. There's more. Kwity Paye was hurt for a little bit there.
He's been hurt a lot.
He's been hurt a lot, right? Yep. Yep. Wait, there's more. Isn't Junior Collison already hurt for the Chargers? I thought he missed the last game. Yeah. Okay. I'm just saying, like those guys put a lot. They get beat up at just like Nick Saban beat him up in Alabama.
Yeah, yeah. It's. We'll see. We'll see. So far, so before we get out of here, early returns on Mitchell are really good. DeJean, their long term is going to factor in. He'll be starting somewhere. To be TBD. Hunt, edge rusher, upside, tremendous body, everything you like about him. He's just very raw. We'll see. It's going to take time to evaluate him. We just don't know about Shipley because they're trying to figure it out with him. I think so as we go through this, I think there's some promising signs, but there's a lot to be determined. It's way too early.
Yeah.
But again, if DeSheen had never gotten hurt, he might be really ahead of schedule. We just don't know yet. And then Hunt, as I said, and Shipley, we'll see. So I think overall, mixed results, but very promising though, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about 2017 when they won the Super Bowl and 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, Adam, it did feel like the hit rate as far as the trade and the free agent maneuvering was just almost perfect, right? In 2017, there was LeGarrette Blount, there was Patrick Robinson, there was Chris Long, there was the trade for Timmy Jernigan, right? There was the Corey Graham as your big nickel guy worked out really well. There was the Wisniewski, the backup guard who got in there and wound up being your starter. It just felt like there were Nick Foles, right? He had come back to the team, right?
Yeah, from Kansas City. Remember?
It just felt like there were almost. I'm sure there was a mistake here and there, but not one that would hurt you. And then 2 years ago, they make the trade for AJ Brown. That works out really well. They trade for CJ Gardner-Johnson coming out of camp because he wasn't going to agree to a deal with.
What a great move it was.
Yeah, that worked out really well. I'm trying to think. Was that the Reddick first year of Reddick?
Yeah, signing was tremendous. Yeah,
right. Javon Hargrave, that was his second year with it. That worked out. It just seemed like there were so many more hits than misses. But as we look at last year, there were misses in free agency from Greedy Williams to Terrell Edmonds. Wide receiver, they never got it right there with number 3 wide receiver. So there were issues there, and now we're talking about guys who've been brought in, whether it's Devin White or Bryce. It just feels like the hit rate just hasn't been there. Now again, we're only through 4, but I just don't remember anything this egregious those years they went to the Super Bowl.
No, because that's the common denominator. When you get a lot, Patrick Robinson also in 2017.
I said him.
Okay, when you sign 10 free agents and you get them all right, I mean, that's like never happens. Like that's how he had a historic year in 17, great year in 22. In fact, there were people around the league that thought the 22 roster was better than the 17 roster when they ring.
Kaiser White was even a good player for that. That was another.
Yeah, he did
addition.
right.
Yeah.
Did very well for a while. Kind of tailed off late, but you're right. So I don't know. He's got to take a look at not only him, all the guys who work for him. The receiver thing, they got to do a better job. We mentioned that earlier. I get there are a lot of bargain baseball ones where you're not really worried about because the money is irrelevant, but it still counts because you're depending on these guys to maybe be backups.
Mm-hmm.
And the Huff one's a tough one, man. That's I know there's 13 games left plus playoffs, but the early returns, the ones that they look like they're going to miss so far. Now I don't. Gardner Johnson's way too early. I'm just kind of puzzled.
Mm-hmm.
But the Huff one to me is one where like, wow, okay. If it doesn't work, see, the problem is they're depending on him to be a stud because they signed him to replace Reddick,
Mm-hmm.
and he can't be right now. He's not doing it. He right now he's not that guy. And I mean, are they really going to add another guy because it's not working? I know they have till November 5th is the trade deadline, so they have time. So I do wonder. We'll talk more about this in the coming days and weeks. But if Huff doesn't look good for like 2 weeks after this, after they come back, they start putting together a list. We got to add somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We will talk about that. All right. Yeah. And it's not like that's the position we thought the Eagles would have to address in free agency, or I'm sorry, on the trade deadline.
Sure.
All right. That will do it. Great episode. Really enjoyed this deep dive into the offseason. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in the Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds. Be sure to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at phlsportsnation.com and on Twitter at phlsportsnation.